Joining us now from the nation's capital is commentary writer for the Washington Examiner, Kaylee McGhee. Kaylee, so this whole feud regarding Sanders and Warren, a lot of people thought that eventually this would happen. They just didn't necessarily see this being the way that it would happen. They thought it maybe would be on policy differences or something like that. What is your take on the latest developments yesterday regarding that feud?
Well, the problem is that there aren't significant policy differences to have between Sanders and Warren. So the ad hominem attacks that are now being thrown back and forth, this was always going to be the result. Both of them can't stay in this race. One of them is going to have to eat the other and take their votes, and that's just going to be how it is. Now, the question is whether Sanders voters will translate to Warren voters and vice versa, and that remains to be seen.
And I think an important statistic, too, is that at least what people would say is that Sanders supporters are a little bit more ideologically driven. For example, if you look back at the 2016 election, it's something like 17 to 19% of Sanders voters actually came out and voted for President Trump as compared to Hillary Clinton, or didn't come out and vote at all. So there is a little bit of a divide and a worry there when it comes to these Democrat candidates about whether or not they'll have the same support behind the Democrat nominee come 2020. Do you think that it's fair, the criticism that Sanders supporters will say sometimes, that the Democratic establishment is a little bit behind more someone like Elizabeth Warren than compared to Bernie Sanders?
And Sanders voters tend to be more loyal than any other Democratic candidate that's out there, to be completely honest. We saw this in 2016 when he first ran, and we're seeing it again. And that's why it's important that a lot of Democratic experts have said, don't count out Bernie, because you never know. These people really do come through for him more than any other candidate. So that's why it would be difficult to just kind of assume that if Warren wins the nomination, you know, all of the Sanders voters will kind of drift towards her as well.
And this type of debate, it's eventually supposed to be had on the moderates as well. I mean, you're going to get someone like Joe Biden, Pete Buttigieg, Amy Klobuchar. They all know that right now Joe Biden is the front runner, and if they want to have a chance, especially in Iowa and the states afterward, that they're going to have to go after Biden. Should we expect some type of divide to happen, maybe at tonight's debate or something in the near future regarding the more moderates in the race right now?
Absolutely, and I guarantee you that it'll focus largely on foreign policy discrepancies. So Biden has, come under fire over the past week or so pretty heavily for his past support of the Iraq war and some of the other foreign policy mistakes that he's made over the past few years and under the Obama administration as well. So you're going to see Mayor Pete and Amy Klobuchar and the other moderates really double down on attacking him for those past mistakes, because that is where he's most vulnerable.
And I think it's interesting, too, because the Sanders campaign also said that they are planning on going after Joe Biden for his record, specifically when it comes to the Iraq war. I think you're spot on when you say that foreign policy might be the difference between these candidates, because you'll have someone like, for example, Mayor Pete, who fought in the Iraq war and has been an outspoken advocate against it, whereas Joe Biden has that history. He has that vote down. He has the clips that are already on social media supporting the Iraq war. So at some point, too, I mean, the moderates are going to have to duke it out. The progressives are duking it out. At some point, are they going to have to converge and really kind of decide what is the direction of this party come 2020? Are they going to go the progressive route? Are they going to come the moderate route? Or is that something we may not find out until the very end?
We might not find that out until the very end, because this progressive-moderate divide has always been present in the Democratic Party, and obviously it appears more heavily now because of the election. But what's going to be really interesting moving forward is to see whether some of these moderate candidates actually team up, and whether some of the other progressive candidates team up and, choose each other for vice president picks, or how they're going to figure out this divide. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if Biden decided to tap one of the other moderates as his VP, or even one of the other candidates who has dropped out already, in order to kind of make a peace offering.
That's a really interesting point, because on the progressive side, for example, you see someone like Julian Castro coming to the support of Elizabeth Warren, and that's kind of countering the fact that other progressives came to the support of Bernie Sanders, big names such as AOC. So really quick before I let you go tonight, who needs to have a big night tonight?
Well, I think all eyes are going to be on, obviously, Bernie and Elizabeth Warren, Joe Biden for sure, but Mayor Pete really needs to come through in this debate, because he's already really doing well in some of the primary state polls. But nationally, he's still behind Biden, Bernie, and Warren. So if he really wants to get ahead nationally, he is going to need to perform very well during tonight's debate, and he's going to need to have another surge in both Iowa and New Hampshire in the primaries.
Yeah, in fact, the last debate was the first time he was really treated like a front runner that he is right now in Iowa, and a lot of people said that he didn't really handle that too well. So it'll be interesting to see if he made the right adjustments come tonight. But Kaylee McGhee from the Washington Examiner, I really appreciate you coming on tonight.